Well, as the hotter temperatures roll in, many of us find ourselves just trying to keep cool. But what about our pets? Well, here to help us take notice of the 5 signs of heat stroke when it comes to our four-legged friends is none other than veterinarian and a great friend of the show, Miss Lisa Hess. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you.
So this is Vinny, first of all.
This is Vinny, who is a type of dog that can easily get heat stroke.
Oh, so he is a good example today.
Yes, that's why I brought him.
Now, the thing with heat stroke is so scary too with people and with pets, I would imagine, is that it's really hard to identify it quickly, I would think. So what are the 5 signs?
Well, initially you'll start seeing panting. They're just excessively panting to the point where they're drooling. Maybe they have bright red gums. They start becoming weak and lethargic. And then ultimately they can end up collapsed and vomiting.
Oh my goodness.
If it gets really bad. And
oh my goodness.
Even on an 80-degree day, dogs can get heat stroke.
You're
yes.
kidding. Okay.
Dogs can get this breed particularly.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, can they get heat stroke just sitting in the backyard, or do they have to be playing and rambunctious?
In the backyard.
Or just sitting there?
Yes, sitting in the back. If it's a really hot day and they don't have shade.
Really?
Yep, and they need access to water. Absolutely, they can. If they're running around in the heat of the day, you bet they can.
Yeah.
And you may not even know it. You may be inside and not realizing that your dog is out of water, had no shade, or is starting to show the early signs of heat stroke. Excessive panting, laying down, sitting, and drooling. Really, really important to notice those early signs and get them, cooled down as quickly as possible. Even if you have a kiddie pool at home or, something that you can leave out for them. If they look like they're starting to show signs, you can take the hose and hose them down.
Oh, that's a great way, to get them immediately kind of cooled off a little bit. We used to put ice cubes in the bowl for our dogs too, just to give them something.
Just something cool,
So, and you mentioned there are certain breeds that are more susceptible to this. Talk about that a little bit.
We call them the brachiocephalic breeds. So the breeds that tend to have the shorter muzzles, like the English and French bulldogs, pugs. Yeah, those are classic ones that can easily show signs of heat stroke. And the other thing is that even in the winter on a cool day, if you leave one of these dogs in your car with the windows up, that can be very damaging to them and really scary, and dogs can easily show signs of heat stroke sitting in a car on a cool day.
That was going to be one of my questions, because I do see a lot of people do that, just leave the windows cracked, and they think that it's going to be fine, but it's not.
I've seen many dogs come in near death being left in a car on a cool day.
I was going to say, because outside it might be 75, but it really heats up inside the car.
It can absolutely heat up, and they pant by cooling, and their way of cooling themselves is not very efficient.
Yeah.
And so, they don't have all of the sweat glands that we do. They have a few, but they're not as efficient at cooling as we are. And then these small breeds with the scrunched faces, they tend to have more of an issue when they start to pant. Everything gets inflamed, and they can easily overheat.
And so you talked about it a little bit. What are some of the things that we can do if we think our pets might be getting heat stroke? What can we do to
So
help
initially
out
you cool them down. Now you have to be careful, especially if they're really, really sick. You don't want to over-cool them.
Okay.
So hosing them down with a hose would be great. And then you can take a wet towel and put a wet towel under the belly.
That's a good idea.
Or even on the pads. And if they're really acting sick, they really should be seen by the veterinarian, because there are things going on. They can go into kidney failure. They can have bleeding and clotting problems. They can go into multi-organ failure. They can get very, very sick from heat stroke. So if you're at all concerned and you're not really sure, I'd recommend a trip to your veterinarian.
Trip to the vet. Now, how can we check? We used to touch their nose. If their nose is not, if it's warm, you kind of know, oh, okay, something's going on. But how can we check at home what their temperature is?
You can take a temperature at home, and if it's over 103.5 and they're visibly showing signs of heat stroke, you should cool them down and get to your veterinarian. If it's just mild and maybe the temperature isn't that high, or if you don't feel comfortable taking a temperature, you can cool them down, bring them inside, seeing if the panting calms down, if they relax, if they're not excited and as anxious, because you'll see them pacing and anxious with heat stroke as well.
That's a good indicator too.
Yeah.
Now, what about decking and pavement? I mean, here in Sacramento, it gets so hot.
And their pads can burn, and ultimately, for dogs being, outside, I would really provide maybe some grass or a rug area, or even a kiddie pool for the bigger dogs. that can go laying if the pavement or the deck gets really, really hot. Because they can easily burn their pads.
Easily, there's little you
Yeah.
forget about it. Absolutely. And you mentioned a little bit, but why are our animals so susceptible to heat stroke more so than humans?
It's just their inefficient ability to cool themselves, and it's by panting. And there's different things you can, do. Make sure that obviously they stay out of hot cars, stay in the exercise in the cooler parts of the day.
Yeah.
There's different evaporative cooling heating vests that
really?
that can be purchased to help with cooling.
Oh, that would be fun.
Or if you decide to take them on a walk or a hike, bring some bottled water, or have them go into a creek, cool them down, rinse them off, bring cool towels. What really can help is moisture under the belly.
That's a very good point. It's going on the walk and hiking, you forget, but bring water for you, bring water for your dog.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, great tips. The weather is heating up, so we appreciate all of the tips today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, my friend.